Hello everyone, I am here with a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne to celebrate. I still have a big day ahead of me. I'm still working on the email to go out to you guys and get everything in the shop. So for all the launches today, look out for the email in a little while. I love champagne, but given that it's midday and I'll be driving a little bit later, I'm going with non-alcoholic champagne to celebrate. My sister told me about a non-alcoholic champagne that she really likes and got me thinking, well, maybe we could try some to celebrate this release. There's three things that debut today. We have the second edition of the Hastings Étui, which I'm calling the Helix Étui. You'll learn a little bit why it's called the Helix. I also have two glasses. I figure since it's not good to drink alone, I'm just gonna drink with you all. This champagne, supposedly they just remove the alcohol, so it tastes like champagne. I think if you have an allergy, it doesn't work because it still has a little bit, but very little. Let's give it a try. That's great. So cheers to this special day. We will do an unveiling of the newest Étui. I'll show you the newest penny. There's new pennies in the Étui, and then there's one thing that's really special. Oh, someone's asking on the brand. I don't know what I couldn't find the one my sister mentioned, but this one's called Joyous. And then the O is crossed out. So I don't know if that changes the pronunciation. But I'm going to show you the first edition, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the changes, and then I'll show you the next edition, and we'll talk about all the pennies and all of that. One thing that I'm going to try to keep remembering to mention is that all the editions are compatible. So if you have an Étui, the pennies I continue to launch and release will still work. And if you're just collecting pennies to start, we're not just collecting, but if you're collecting pennies to start, that's totally normal. A lot of people will collect pennies for a while before deciding whether or not they want the full Étui. So I have this lapis lazuli or lapis lazuli, which I've been pressing on and I really love it. I also have this labradorite, which I like for when I travel to have a cold surface to press on. And then of course I have marble where I normally press. On the lapis lazuli, I have a few pennies, you can see. The first are the first three that were in the first edition. So we have the fleur-de-lis, and on the back side in French it says the girls just want to have fun. And then we have the envelope, go where I wish to be. And then on the back side we have clovers with Erin go Bra, Ireland until the end of time. And then we have the heart lock, you alone have the key. On the back side we have my little cabbage, mon petit chou, which is a term of endearment in French. So these three effectively are retired or sold out. They were only in the first edition Étui, so that's the only way to get these. The new moon pennies, so the ones that are released every new moon, those are also retired once they're released. So I only release them once, and that's also just first come, first serve. So this is the one that launches today. We have the unicorn on one side. That is a symbol of the mystical, the magical, the extraordinary. So things that are just very unique. I also see it as a symbol that is optimistic and moves away from spaces of negativity. It's in legend thought that you can only capture a unicorn if you have a pure heart and good intention. So it's a very optimistic, beautiful, mystical image. This penny I'm calling the Simona penny. It's inspired by my friend and fellow collector Simona, who has an Instagram, a.tail.unfold, tail like a story. You can see her antique collection of seals. She's doing an extensive amount of research on the history of Étuis, and she's the one that taught me that we are at the 200th anniversary of the first Étui ever being launched. these are a couple motifs that she really loves. And so when I designed the penny, I surprised her with the motifs that I chose, choosing ones that I knew were some of her favorites. And this side, it's in French. It has the sun, moon, and stars. It says, I conjure them all for your happiness. There's always a duality with pennies because there's two sides. I never think of them as two opposites that are totally distinct. There's more kind of an energy of these things working together. And so on one side, it's all of the purity, beauty, magic of a unicorn, the things that protect our heart, how we can be fully uniquely ourselves as if unicorns, how we're unique. But then on the other side, it's wishing and the things that we conjure through our wishes. So this is out today. In the email, I'll share a little bit more about Simona as a collector as well. The first edition Étui came as one body design, but two options. It came with either a polished or an unpolished handle. As with anything I design, I like all of it, but there are certain ones that I'll gravitate to at different times. So these, there were 99 made. I have two that are not part of the 99. So these are Artist Master ones. This one is actually a prototype, and I wanted to show it to you today so you could see the patina of it aging. So this is polished. I polished this well before London, and then I've just kind of let the patina develop. So you can imagine with time as you use this, your hand is polishing it in a way, but it gets this beautiful kind of deeper, almost bronzy color. I'm sure this will become controversial in 25, 50, 100 years. People questioning whether or not it's okay to polish the patina off, especially if you have, let's say, 100 years of patina on there. I'm saying because I designed this, yes, that's totally fine. You should do what you want with the Étui that you have. So you don't want to do something, obviously, that injures it so that people can't enjoy it, but it's totally fine in 100 years, 200 years to polish it and to get it looking shiny, almost like gold. This is kind of a comparison in color, so you can see it aging with time. It's my intention with every Étui that when you look at the profile of it, so if it were just sitting on someone's desk, you'd know which edition it is just by looking at it, even from afar. So the profile is really important to me. The tops are going to be different for every edition. So this unique shape, which looks like a clover from the side or a forget-me-not from the top, was only in the first edition Étui. So you're not going to see that shape anymore. There's a couple other little profile differences that you'll notice once I show you the second edition Étui in a moment. All Étuis work similarly. You have a top that you can remove. Inside you can place the pennies. And then when you're ready to press a penny, you'll be able just to unscrew the other end, place the penny in, and close it like this. So this will work for all Étuis that I'm releasing. It's the same general function there. And it's designed so that it's flush with the design. The first edition was unique, not just in the shape, but also in that the very head of it could come off like this. The reason I designed it that way was because I thought that you all might want to swap out and use different handles with time, or maybe you'd want a Catherine Hastings larger format seal. Let's say a seal like, let's say the Witch Three Graces. These are compatible. So with first edition, you could actually swap out and use your Étui handle. But I was never doing that. I was just always using my wooden handles on my larger seals and my Étui handle on my Étui pennies. I talked with other collectors. Other people weren't unscrewing it. And the screw direction is the same for the cap and the head. So you have to be a little bit careful with the first edition that you don't do this too tight. This can go as tight as you want. But I thought, okay, that's a feature that we're not really using. So that's something that's different for this next edition. The head won't come off. Let's talk the pennies quickly before I show you the Étui, and then we go through each penny. The Étuis come with 3 pennies. In the first edition, I showed you these 3. The reason I wanted to show them as I preview the second edition is because the third penny is important to note. It's a heart lock. it says you alone have the key. So just keep that in mind. We'll put this up here so we can remember it. Okay, I'm gonna have a sip of my non-alcoholic champagne, and then are you ready to see the next edition? Okay, just let me know. I'm just gonna do a little polish here with my hands. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So here it is. And it's called the Helix Étui because it has these cuts in it. This is the final of the prototype. So when you get yours, it might actually have a little bit more space in these sections. When we were manufacturing it, I wanted to have that space for a couple reasons. First, when you look through it, see if you can see that diamond pattern. So see up here, look at this beautiful pattern. I love that feeling. It almost looks like magic sparkles when you twirl it. It also will show you the pennies that are in it, so you can kind of see if it's full or not just by looking at the handle. You may notice the color difference too. So this is, again, one that has the patina, where this is bright. I'm not doing a polished or unpolished version for this second edition. All of them are polished and they're all treated. So it was actually a lot more expensive to manufacture these because they went through 2 additional steps after we've made them so that they shouldn't tarnish as much with time. And you can see a little bit of the polish on them, and that's just there to kind of help keep it nice and clean with time. We don't know how long it will last. It could be a few months. It could be like weeks, years. We don't know. But we thought it's worth trying it just to keep it as bright as possible for as long as you want. That being said, you can always polish, but I wouldn't polish the second edition until you feel that it needs to be polished. I just say that because if you're polishing off the protective layer, it's not going to hurt the etui, but then it will tarnish sooner. And tarnish is actually really pretty. So it's going to be beautiful no matter what era it's in, but that was a little bit of the thinking behind it. And the bottom, the head doesn't come off, I mentioned, so this piece isn't going to come off, but this part works the same, right? Okay, are we ready to see the pennies? Let me know. I'm gonna put the first one in here just so we're ready, and then I'll show you. All of the pennies go in a specific order. You can always arrange them however you want, but they kind of tell a story. So that's why when I'm thinking of it, it's which penny number and whether or not it's heads or tails. I'm pressing the Collier blue right now. Lapis lazuli, Eve wax. So the wax that I made named after Eve Klein is basically this bright blue. So if you want to press on lapis and have a matching color, you would do Eve. Okay, so here we go. We're going to press. And let me know any questions that you have in the comments or anything you want to share. Just going to give it one little sec. Trying not to spill champagne on myself behind the scenes here. Okay. And one thing I'm liking about working on lapis, and this is with some of the marbles I've worked with as well, you don't always need a palette knife. So I'll show you that in a moment. But okay, so this was where we left off, right? This is the last penny of the first edition. Obviously, we had many pennies launched each new moon, but we effectively, with last edition, left off there. So here we are, starting with the second edition. And we have a series of 3 keys. In Latin, it's inscribed, the keys are within. The symbolism of the key is across, how many totals so far for the first edition? And how does each one hold? Okay, that's a great question. So first edition Étui holds 6 in the handle and 1 in the head of the seal, so 7 total. Technically, this edition holds 8, it'll hold 7 in the handle and 1 in the head. To get it to fully close is still 6, but actually you can fit 8 and have it look like this. So if you're traveling and you really want 1 extra penny, you can easily do that with the next edition. Okay, so let me show you the detail a little better on this one. So the keys are within. We had in the last edition, you alone have the key, and it's the key to the heart. And this is telling us that the keys are within and that we have the keys. I chose 3 keys because the number 3 has a lot of different meanings. And you could look into numerology, you could look into tarot. 3 is the number of the Empress. My life path is the number of the Empress. There's the sense in like Christianity of Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You have past, present, future. You have mind, body, spirit. There's a lot of 3s, and so it can be interpreted in many different ways. I think about this one as a reminder that we already have everything we need, and it's inside of us. The answers are inside of us, and there's not just one key. It's not that like one thing in us is the thing that's going to unlock what we need, but that we have many, many parts of us that have the solutions. So that's how I interpret it. But with all of my work, I recommend finding your own meaning. It doesn't have to be, it can be exactly the same as how I interpret it, but it doesn't have to be. You might have a different tradition. And like I mentioned, like the Christian lineage of 3, but I'm like kind of agnostic or spiritual. I don't know what I would define myself. I'm not necessarily coming from that tradition, but I think you can look at it from whatever lens that you interpret the world. And so it's just a really beautiful reminder that it's not outside of you. Letters also inherently call us to ourselves. Lord Byron is often misquoted as saying this. It was actually his biographer who said that letters are the perfect combination of company and solitude. And I feel like the keys are such a good metaphor for that, of being with yourself, having the keys in you, but you're unlocking something that you're sharing with others. Okay, so now on to the next side. I let this wax cool a little too much. Do you ever do that where you take it off your heater and then you forget about it a moment? Okay. And I really love pressing on stone because it allows me to mount these with an adhesive so I can use them later or give them as gifts. Okay. First penny, tails side, here we go. You can see, actually, my wax is a little too cool. I have a glue gun as well, so let's do that quickly. I really want to bring out the text for you, and I think that was a little too cool to do it. There we go. That shows it so much better. Okay. Oopsies. Okay. So this is an Italian. It's an oak tree. It comes from the original etuis that were launched a couple hundred years ago, not in the very first few editions of those etuis, but later on in the larger rectangular versions. And it says, grow, don't change. What does that mean? How can you grow without changing? The oak doesn't become a birch tree or a pine tree or a maple tree. It remains its own tree, but it grows taller and stronger. So when we think about the metaphor of the keys and the answers being within, this is the reminder, grow into who you are. Don't change who you are. Be who you are and continue to grow. So this first penny is kind of setting the tone for this collection, starting with ones that are quite introspective. Okay, so that's penny number 1. Penny number 2, I have been calling it the Claire penny. One of my beloved patrons, Claire McDonald, who's been just an ardent supporter of me in all ways, I was asking her before this edition what motifs she think would be good. And she really wanted a bee and she wanted flowers. And of course I was already doing flowers, but I decided to add the bee. So the bee idea came from Claire. In antique wax seals, bees represent two main things: industriousness, because bees are very industrious, they're very hardworking. It also represents the keeper of secrets. There's a antique Étui that said, no one penetrates my secrets, and it's a hive. So it's the idea that the bees have all the secrets. For mine, I wanted to think about the theme of industriousness, but as bees being of service to something slightly different. So this is a motif that hasn't existed before. That wax is a little too cool still. Let's do this. Oh, and Claire is here. Thank you, Claire. Okay, so you all are probably guessing that the backside probably has a flower, which we'll get to in a moment. But here we are. Okay, so this one is obviously a beautiful bee. Can you see the design on the wings as well? I just love it. If you think about how far we've come in a year with how much we've improved the engraving, my mind's blown, and I can't wait to see where we go with it. Not that things need to be more detailed, but it is pretty neat when you look at something so small and then there's all these little details that are of wonder. This Latin is a phrase I came up with that is not how a Latin scholar would say it or write it, or, in ancient times when they spoke Latin, this isn't necessarily how they would communicate this concept, but I wanted it to be a little bit more poetic. And so I chose this phrasing, and it means through beauty, life. Bees have this remarkable industriousness, but the industriousness is in the space of beauty with flowers, and then honey is created in that sustenance. And so they're sustaining themselves through work that is beautiful. So that's very much in the tradition of seals and letters that we're creating. We are giving ourselves and others life through rituals of beauty. And so it's a little bit of a new take. And the Latin isn't wrong, but I wanted it to have that exact phrasing. So it's almost like through beauty, life. That's more how you would interpret it. And it has us contemplate what aspects of our life sustain us. And to me, beauty is part of that, the appreciation of beauty in the world, particularly the natural world. Okay, so now we get on to the second side. So this is the tail side of the second penny. Again, it's a penny I call the Claire penny. I'm just going to switch to glue gun because my little candle doesn't seem to be very hot. So just going to do that. The language of flowers dates back hundreds of years. Flowers have had strong medicinal properties, and from that they've also had deep symbolism associated with them. It wasn't really until the Victorian era, though, where florography, the language of flowers, was popularized. Florography is, and I know a lot of you know this, but just for those of you who aren't aware, florography is where you use flowers to communicate particular ideas or sentiments. So, for instance, if you are really passionate about someone, you might give them a red rose. We recognize that even in modern times as a flower that symbolizes love and passion. In the Hastings florography seals, we do a large number of not a large number, but we do large format seals. This is, other than the bay leaf, I think this is the first floral seal, actually, which is really exciting. So, okay, 3, 2, 1. Voila. Okay, can you see it from here? Tell what it is. It is a lily of the valley. and it says return to happiness. You'll notice I'm working across different languages. Often translation is a major part. But this one I wanted in English because I just wanted it short, sweet, simple, and a reminder of just returning to happiness. And that's again like to the theme of the unicorn, which eschews cynicism. It's the belief in a better future. And the happiness of like, how do you get happiness? You have the keys. The keys are within. Become who you are. Find beauty. It'll resource you through life. And we did also like on the Lily of the Valley larger format where you get this beautiful texture on the leaves. We have that on this one as well. Okay. So we are now on to the third and final penny of this etui. There is something special though coming beyond this. For those of you who haven't signed up yet, make sure you sign up for the Letter of Becoming workshop I'm leading on January 11th. Effectively, I've written my future. I've written myself into becoming the thing that I am, and I continue to do so. And it's one of the reasons why I have such a deep faith that everything I dream comes true, because I see it and I see myself taking action. I obviously have a lot of people around me who believe in my dreams too, and that helps amplify it. But this penny, the head side of this penny, communicates that idea. How is the weight? It is very similar weight. It has basically the same thickness of the walls, so it's very sturdy. I'll show you something in a moment that's pretty neat about this edition and what the Helix effect creates beyond being able to see in it. But like the first edition, it's very sturdy. I would say the vibe of it, and this might sound a little out there, but you can feel it. Those who have a first edition etui, they know the gravity of the etui. The first one is very grounding. It feels like, to me, it feels like you're good. I have you. You're in this moment. You're protected. You're connected. There's something in that first version that is very sturdy and grounding. This one, weight-wise, is similar, but because of the feel on the handle, there's a lightness to it, where to me, this one feels a little bit more playful when you hold it. And it's more for me a reminder of merriment, which I'll show you in a moment of why that is as well. But yeah, it is just as sturdy as the first one, so it's not like you're going to bend it or anything with the Helix. It's just as strong, but you can feel the mood of it is a little bit different. Every etui will have a little bit different feel to it as well, and you'll kind of get to know them like friends when you hold them. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, you can see it. In Latin, verba mea fiunt, and I might mispronounce that. So, this means my words come into being. Like literally my words become things. And yes, I will travel with both. Kathy's asking about that. Yes, I will. Yeah, it's like everything I release, it's like my children in a way. It's like I don't have a favorite, and then I'll say that they're all my favorite. Like I do that with my kids. I'm like, oh, you're my favorite in the whole world. And they'll say, well, what about them? And I'm like, they're my favorite. I feel similarly about the etuis. But yes, I will travel with both of them. So yeah, this one is about our words' power, and literally the things that we write come into being in the world. And so as a reminder that writing, spelling, is a form of spells. It's a form of magic, and to honor our voices and the words that we send others. So sending out into the world what we want the world to become. And for me, letter writing naturally does that, because letter writing is about sending love and friendship as well. So question about it dissipating heat as well. Yeah, I would say it doesn't stay cold as long
but it's pretty similar. I haven't noticed a difference. Actually, Angela, I should have Angela test it. She did 50 in a row with the Hastings Étui, the first edition, and didn't need it to cool at all. I'm staunchly against putting seals on ice. It's like every time I see it online, I feel like I'm being rage baited. You don't need to do that. There are other ways to cool stuff, and particularly working with waxes that aren't as hot. But the handles do help maintain the temperature of the seal. I always recommend that it's at about body temperature. So whether it's first edition or second, if you know you're going to be pressing it, having it in your pocket for a little while before you press can be great. But yeah, I would say it doesn't stay cold as long, but it's not going to heat up to the point where you can't hold the handle. Okay, so this is the final side, the tail side of the third penny. And if Vanessa is here, she helped on this one. I had to consult her, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I wanted to get this one right. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Voila. Okay, so it's a greyhound delivering the letter. And how do the words that we write come into being? They're sent out into the world in loyalty and friendship. Dogs are a symbol of loyalty and friendship. Even thinking about how dogs are sometimes named Fido, that's from fidelity, Fido. The greyhound has more symbolism on top of just dog symbolism, though. For about 700 years, only the nobility were allowed to own greyhounds, and so they were seen as a status symbol. You'll see a lot of men with portraits with their greyhounds, just like they did with their horses. And it's a symbol of kind of bucolic and aristocratic life, but also just the rarity of the dog. So there is kind of a vibe of it being a little bit noble. They also are known for being quick. So we think about like the Greyhound bus. I haven't been on a Greyhound, but I imagine that they're going for, this is a quick bus, right? The branding is it's fast as a Greyhound. And the antique seals have that as well. But they will work in different sides of the symbolism. So there's a French one that's from the original Étuis, Je suis pressé, which means I'm in a hurry. There's ones about making haste with a greyhound. There's also ones of loyalty and steadfastness, though, where you see the greyhound next to a column. And so for me, I'm not saying the greyhound means one thing. I'm letting you interpret it. But the greyhound delivers the letter. For those of you who know the Hastings toile, I often wrap my seals in Hastings toile when I send them to you. You'll notice there's a little greyhound in that toile delivering a letter. So he's already kind of in the Hastings world. For those of you who followed my work for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about antique seals and greyhounds, and the mark of a good greyhound is, in my mind, always the ribs. So, of course, the Hastings seal had to have some good ribs in there. The reason I consulted Vanessa is because she has this sweet little greyhound named OV, and so she talked to me about what I was looking at. I had a few different versions, and we kind of combined a couple different versions to get it just right. Oh yeah, and she's saying it reminds her of OV. So yeah, it's really cute. And this one is fun because you can also do a cutout of the letter if you want and put like a little white letter and then do a little bit of paint on the seal and then have it look like he's delivering a seal with a letter. Okay, so I told you that, but wait, that's not all. And it's true. Okay, one thing I want to show you, and you noticed this probably on the first edition, but we really refined it in the second edition. When you take off the top of the seal, you can actually take off both sides and then screw them together like this, okay? And that allows you, if you want to just hold something small to press, you can do that. Or if you want something smaller in your pocket, you just want to hold one penny but not lose it, you can do this. In the first edition, we could do that as well. So I'll just show you the difference though. So this, we purposely made it work like this with the first edition, but you'll notice there's this gap. So in the second edition, we didn't do that. That also allowed us to fit one more penny in the head, so, or in the handle. So if you want to put, let's see, we'll count them. Oh wait, okay. This is the other thing I want you to hear. The matrix allows it to sound like this when you add pennies. Oh, let's do another one. Can you hear that? I'm hoping it's picking it up. It rings like a bell when you put the pennies in there. And so it's almost this kind of, it's so pretty how it rings. Yeah, it makes its own little music. So that's why I also say it has a lighter feeling to it. And the bell for me is a symbol of joy. It's like a symbol of laughter. Okay, so that I think was 8. So you can see it's quite full. But if you do this, it's very secure in there. There's a little bit of a gap. You can see that very little gap. So if there's 7, you can get it to close all the way. But if you really want to bring an 8th, you can do that and it's totally secure in there. And then you can also see all of the pennies inside, which is really nice. Okay, so this little design here makes a small one that you can press. So there's our little OV Greyhound. He's so cute. And you can do this with any of your pennies. So it's nice. Okay, I'm curious if this reminds anyone of anything, looking at this shape. Love to know what you think in the comments. I mentioned that all of the seal profiles look different. So I chose this for a specific reason. And you might be thinking it looks a lot like a pawn, a chess piece. Yes, you got it. Okay. So a pawn, exactly. So this edition, the top of it looks like a pawn and you can make a little pawn like this. My intention is, and I don't know which edition, so it might not be the next edition after this edition, but in my lifetime, I will make tops that are different pieces. So we will have a castle at some point, a rook. We'll have a horse, a knight at some point. And with time, you can see the profiles of these different ones that are somewhat inspired by chess pieces. So I also just think it feels lovely and looks nice. But I said there's one other cool thing that's coming. I'm launching also a limited edition of pawns. So they're going to be 50. Okay, well, let's take a step back. There's going to be 100 total. The first 50 have a penny you haven't seen yet, which I'll show you now. I have 20 that are available now. So the Étuis, their pre-order is going out early January. But I'll have 20 of these that can go right away. And I'll show you the penny that's on there. After those first 20, I'll have more coming probably around the pre-order time. So around like January 7th, we can sell all the way up to the 50 mark on these. After that, there'll be a second pawn coming. The profile will look exactly the same. So it'll look like this, but it will have a different penny. I hope this isn't too confusing. I think about this stuff so much that it's been like months of it going really full circle, okay? So you can use your current one like a little pawn if you want, but there are people who will collect the pawns on their own as well. And the reason some people might want to do that is because it has its own penny, but also there are a lot of people that collect individual pennies without going for the full étui. So this will still allow you to use an individual penny without needing the full étui. It's still, I think, technically more cost effective if you're doing it at the étui level. With this type of luxury collecting, it's not so much about okay, what's going to be the most cost effective. It's more about which object calls you and the symbolism of them. The new Étui is slightly more expensive than the last version. It's $1,555.55, where the pawns are $777.77. And there are fewer of the pawns. So that's kind of the thought behind them. Are you ready to see the pawn penny? Okay, so again, there's only 50 of these pennies, but I'm only listing 20 today. So if you want one to come to you right away. So you can't purchase the pawn size and get the other 3 pennies. Each Étui version has its own pennies. The reason for that is that I want whatever version people collect to have something that is totally unique and special to their version. So if, let's say, you just come across Catherine Hastings and you really wanted a first edition, but they're sold out, you get a second edition, you have 3 pennies that are totally unique to that edition. Or if you get the pawn, you have a penny that's totally unique to this edition. So there are people that collect all the different editions. So if you want to collect all of them and have all the different pennies, you can do that. But I want there to be that sense of having something really unique and special with any type of handle format that you buy. Okay. So symbolism of a pawn is sometimes misunderstood. People think of pawns as being like pieces in someone else's game, and I'm curious for those of you who play chess, how you might interpret it. My son and I play chess regularly, and I always think about the pawn as like a deeply powerful and underestimated thing, because pawns, there's more of them. They're often the first to move on the board, but if they make it all the way across the board, they can become anything, save for a king. So usually when you have them, I'm blanking on the word. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. Basically when pawn promotion. So when they get to the end of the board, you'll do a pawn promotion. Usually you turn your pawn into a queen. So basically this thing that's so humble can become a queen someday. That is, to me, also what this collection is. It looks small, it looks humble, but it is becoming its own kind of beautiful, powerful system with time. So don't underestimate the pawn. It's kind of how I think about it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, are you able to see it there? I'm going to do another one here. So I wanted to choose motifs that go along with that energy of a pawn, something that is very powerful but often underestimated. And so I chose a house cat. I have a cat, a little tabby cat named Darwin. I think this one's better. And the detail on this is so phenomenal. I know there's a lot of stigma against cats. I adore cats. The cat is powerful in its own right. It doesn't need your approval. It's not necessarily looking for friends or companionship, even though they are very loving and they are great companions. The inscription in Latin shows basically domain of one's own son. And so the pawn pennies are only available with pawn orders. So yes, that's true. So yes, if you want this one is only available in the pawn. It's not like an add-on for the larger Étui. So it's just in the pawn that's available. And I don't know if you can see it. I'll have to put a photo in the listing of it. But even the engraving follows the direction of the fur. Let me see if I can show that a little better. The detail is remarkable. There, can you see this fur direction? Yeah, you can see it there, the fur direction. And there's a lot of people who want just something smaller for individual pennies. And so this is a really good option for that without doing the full étui. But also if you do that, you have something unique that, other collectors don't have unless they have the same thing. So, yeah, I'm just obsessed with this. And again, cats, they're often underestimated. And they look so innocent, but they're like major killers as well. The one thing I really love about house cats too is they rest unapologetically. And I feel like that's something we all can really learn, is just to, embrace leisure and rest. Okay. And then the tail side of the pawn. And as always, I always recommend really sitting with symbolism and deciding whether it fits for you, if it's something that matches for you. Okay. And this one, I'm obsessed. Another thing that's deeply underestimated and seems small and humble, but is so mighty, a book. Curito Cresco. I think I grow. In the antique seals, you'll see books as often closed books, and they're the Bible. And the image of an open book versus a closed book is very important, because the open book means the story isn't done. And it means that there's an openness to unknowing the parts you haven't read. There's an openness to learning. There's an openness to growth. The antique books were about belief, which is beautiful too, about faith and belief. And so that's important, but this is different. This says, because I read, I grow. Because I think, I grow. It's about the power of the mind and the potential that comes from learning and the dedication to learn. So these two things that I adore and are so much a part of my world, house cats and books, they seem as humble as a pawn, but through them grow great worlds, right? Through them become queens. And I see a comment, I'm allergic to cats, but I'll buy the penny for that book. The book is so gorgeous, I know. And I'm an avid reader. I'm a prolific writer. There are many books to come within the Catherine Hastings universe, so I don't think this is the only book. I don't have others that I've designed at this point, but it's hard for me to imagine that this would be like the one and only book ever, right? I think I mentioned this in my most recent live, that I intend to make it to 100, and I turn 40 next year. So my hope, my great wish, is that for the next 60 years, I can keep making these. Both étui and larger format seals. I mean, like this. How are you not in love? Also, there's the bell symbolism. The middle one holds the bell, and then we have the ringing of the bell of the second edition. Thank you for all your kind notes. Claire says, I'm obsessed with the pawn penny. My life has always been kitties and books. I feel you. I definitely feel you. And there's a lot to look into in the symbolism for each. The cat seal, I have a similar composition coming out in the new year, or in the coming weeks. Maybe it's even only in the coming weeks, actually. I have to figure out. I think it's in the coming weeks. That is a limited edition, large format of a house cat. So you're going to see this similarly in a larger format design. Instead of it being text, I did my script for that one, but it's the same inscription. I know it's going to take a while to digest all these. I know also because today marks the launch of the newest penny, the Sun, Moon, and Stars, and the unicorn, the Simona penny. So I feel like there is a lot to digest, and I kind of had wished that I had given you, a couple weeks for everything, but it was also like the right time, and it being the new moon and the holidays coming, I wanted you to see all the options. so that you would really know what you're most drawn to. And not to see one and then later there's another one that you wanted more. I want you just to see all the different options. Obviously, this is a lot as far as launches go. So also keep in mind the momentum with which we've addressed the world today. It will slow down a bit. We're getting back into that normal cadence of one new moon, one penny going forward. There is so much beauty in this release that it makes me almost weep. I feel it. I feel it too. And I'm just, I'm so proud. I don't know. It's interesting. I've kind of been working with the idea of pride lately because to that conversation earlier this week of judgment online, there is a lot of stigma against women being proud of things or having done things. And I'm not proud in the sense of like it being about me and it only me, but this is so beautiful. And just to like know it exists and that I get one, like I am proud. But I hope that you're proud too, because also I wouldn't release these without you all being excited about them, and you inspire me so much. And I mean, everything I make has a little bit of you. There's an essence of you in it because I have so much of the interaction between us all. Okay, so as far as numbers go, that pawn, so the book kitty pawn, 50 are going to be available. First 20 I'll be able to send you. So I'm going to put 20 available right now. Once those sell out, then I'll list the remaining as pre-orders. So it's up to 50, but only 20 for people that are really wanting one. I can send them to you this coming week. We are doing 249 of this edition, but I'm only releasing 50 to start. In part, it's just because the manufacturing takes a long time. So they come in batches. When I order them through our machinists and everything, I pay up for them and like we do the full collection. But because they take so much time, they come in batches, especially as we polish and treat them as well. So we're doing pre-order for the first ones first. When I first launched the Étui, so the first edition Étui, I said, okay, we're doing the serial numbers 1 through 99. Everything's going in the collector's register. And I didn't know if I was going to do that going forward. Well, I learned through the first edition how important it is to have serial numbers on them, because if they go missing or in years somebody has one and they're like, I don't know, is this the real thing? Because there's going to be copycats and all of that. It's really important there's serial numbers. So even though we are making more now than we did in the first edition, they're all going to be signed still and have serial numbers. They'll be signed in a different spot though, because the head doesn't come off, right? So, and I'm excited for you to see. I'm glad you're as blown away as I am. I will send an email that has a link to this recording, but I hope that you love everything and, that you remember the keys in you and that you feel into the ones and just figure out, okay, which ones speak to you. And then also I know there's this feeling of like scarcity in collecting. One thing I've learned from antiques is that even though there are only a finite number of these pieces, the right pieces always find their way to you. So, really feel into what belongs, what doesn't. And if you miss this release, like let's say you miss the pawn release, that piece might come around in another way to you from another collector, or there might be a piece that you love even more that's coming. So I always just say that with the caveat around scarcity is that, and I get that as a collector, I know that feeling so deeply of like, oh, I'm going to miss it. But just really trusting that the right pieces find you. So kind of calling in what speaks most to you. Okay. Well, thank you all. I'm just so happy, and cheers to us on this next edition. This is yours if you want to take a sip. Lovely. Keep an eye out for your email later today. I will have everything listed hopefully within about an hour or so, and then I'll send the email as soon as everything's listed. So
You're not going to miss anything. Very happy holidays to you. Simon says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. And I hope to take a good break over the holidays, but I also can't help myself from popping in here. So hope to be back some as well. And then, of course, show you more behind the scenes as I work on my external space. Thank you all.